Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Fantasy Roundup for Super Bowl week here on bet.nola.com and the Bayou Bets YouTube channel. I'm Zach Ewing. Here with me is Spencer the Guru Urquhart. We are going to take you through the next 30, 40 minutes or so, talk about some Super Bowl props, some daily fantasy showdown advice. We've got some same-game parlays we put together. We're going to run the whole gamut here. We're going to dig down into the player prop angle of one game about as much as you can, Spencer.
Yeah, I can't wait, Zach. This is a week with us prop bettors, DFS players really look forward to, especially prop bettors. You know, DFS, I mean, we have a lineup option, but not as many games to pick from, obviously just the one. But for props, I mean, you got all the exotic props, and then as far as player props, just way more options to pick from than normal. Normally, it's just like yards, touchdowns, interceptions, where now you got like who's going to have the most yards in the game, who's going to get more out of Hurts, Mahomes, who's going to win the MVP. You know, there's just like so many more options out there that makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah. Caesars, in fact, announced yesterday. I think they had two huge prop bets that were made. I guess I say huge. One of them was huge. The other one was small. It was only $8, but it was at 10,000 to 1 odds that the Eagles would score exactly 4 points. Which
Exactly.
$8 to win $80,000. But what do you do?
Two safeties. I was like, how do you score 4 points on two safeties?
That's it. That's the only way. There's been one game in the history of the NFL that finished with 4 points. Actually, technically speaking, you could get a field goal and then you could get a PAT safety, which is 1 point, if the other team scores a touchdown. This is the little known rule. This is the only way you can score 1 point in a football game. It's never happened in the NFL. But if either team suffers a safety on a PAT try, the other team gets 1 point. So you could actually end up with 4 points that way as well. But I don't think that's gonna happen. I'm not even putting $8 on it. Herman says, "Who dat straight out of Slidell?"
What up, Herman?
To you, Herman. Appreciate you being here. So we are brought to you by Caesar Sportsbook. If you have not signed up, go to lsuposter.com. It's the best deal out there for a new Caesars user. You get 3 free LSU championship commemorative posters just for placing a $10 bet. So go place a $10 bet on anything. It could be on the Super Bowl. It could be on a college basketball game, an NBA game. Caesars has a boost tonight. LeBron to break Kareem's record tonight to score 36 points. Anything, $10 on anything. And put in your address and pick out the posters. We'll send them to you for free. Jerry is here. Hello, Jerry.
Jerry, what's up, man?
In the comments, drop us what your favorite player prop is for the Super Bowl. We want to know what y'all are thinking. There's so many options, by the way. It's not just at Caesars, but anywhere. I mean, literally thousands of ways to bet this game. And so it's very possible that we miss something that we really like. So we'll take you through some of the options, and then we're going to pick our favorites. We'll do some DFS. And then at the end of the show, we have our same game parlays. Spencer and I each cooked up an SGP that is 9 to 1 or better. Mine's 9 to 1. His is 12 to 1. So I'll just leave it at that, and we'll get to those at the end of the show. So we're kind of split this up team by team, and we'll start with the Eagles. So Spencer, here are some of the major yardage player props you can get on the Eagles, and also touchdowns. You see Hurts passing touchdowns at the top, and then at the bottom, this is to score, to actually be the one to carry the ball into the end zone or catch the ball in the end zone. So Hurts has the lowest odds on any of any Eagle to reach the end zone too.
Yeah, which makes sense because, I mean, Hurts has basically been their goal line back this year. He's got double-digit touchdowns, I believe. So to me, there's value there at plus 112. We'll talk more about it later on here, but to me, that's a value because, I mean, he's basically a lock to get into the end zone, especially these past few weeks. I believe he's had a touchdown now each of the past 4 or 5 weeks. So he's a bulldozer down there. He knows how to get in the end zone. And then they have a lot of other backs, though, that can get involved there. Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, Boston Scott. And then they have a lot of values there to me on that yardage chart because I think this game could I would say it's going to be a shootout for the ages, like some are saying, but there's definitely going to be more points put up than Jim Derry was saying yesterday. I think there's going to be both teams get into the 20s, so I like some of those overs.
Yeah, we're going to refrain from our specific picks until a little later in the show. And as far as our game picks, those are coming on Thursday's Bayou Bets show live at 4 p.m. Jim will be with us. We'll give our final scores and some of our favorite bets of the week. But this is all player props, and I agree with you. I mean, I think this could be one of those matchups that fantasy players love. I mean, lots of yards, lots of points. Um, I've got my eye on a couple of these. I tell you what, Boston Scott there at the bottom, if you want kind of a long shot, they do put him in goal line situations. He's a Zachary guy. If you want a little Louisiana connection, 5-1 odds on him to score a touchdown.
Yep, could be a value. Him and Kenny Gainwell have been getting more involved. I mean, Miles Sanders is still the main runner, but it's been more of a committee here down the stretch. So yeah, there could be value with those two.
All right, we'll switch over to the Chiefs now. And as you can see, Mahomes expected to throw for a lot more yards than Hurts. Hurts was at 241.5, and Mahomes, the over on his 1.5 touchdowns, also juiced way up to minus 224. It's interesting, though, the individual receiver numbers are not nearly as high. Now, if Mahomes is going to throw for that many yards, maybe that just means Travis Kelce goes way over his total of 79.5. Maybe it means the running backs get involved. More receivers just spread out, but your receiver prop, Smith-Schuster, 37.5, Valdez-Scantling, 36.5. I think Kadarius Toney didn't put him on here, but he's like 23.5. There isn't a receiver really expected to go off.
Right, yeah, something doesn't really add up there. I think what this kind of is that they know the public is going to love Patrick Mahomes, so they really juiced up his yardage total there. I mean, that's just I'll just a little spoiler alert. I mean, that's one of my top plays is his under. It's just too high, 294.5. He's definitely capable of going over that, but it's like last year. I remember Cooper Kupp was the freaking Super Bowl MVP, but he didn't even go over his yardage total. It was set at like over 100, and I believe he had 90 something. So they always jack up the price for the superstars because they know, as Jim calls it, Joe Q Public, Aunt Mabel are going to be all over that. So to me, there's just no value in playing his over. But there are a few other Chiefs that I like the over, but he's not one of them.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that. I'm sitting here adding up all of their receiver props and seeing how much they add up to if it comes close to Mahomes 294. And I don't think it does. I think it comes up to, maybe at low 200s. Now, obviously, not every single player who could catch a pass is listed. And if you're betting on Mahomes to go over, then you're betting on some of these totals to also go over. But it's it is curious. That number does seem too high when you look at, okay, let's say Kelce goes over his total and has 95 yards. And let's say Juju and MVS both go over their total and they each have 40 something. Okay, well, you're still only at about 180. So now you're saying without those three guys, Mahomes needs to find another 115, 120 yards passing just from the running backs, or you add in Noah Gray, the backup tight end, or Sky Moore, the third wide receiver. Like,
Yeah,
it
he could
starts to
be
get a little bit
sneaky, Sky
difficult.
Moore.
Yeah, I
Yeah, he
mean,
could be
and that's not.
sneaky, but
We're not trying to say that Mahomes can't throw for 300 yards, but you're exactly right, Spencer. Something does not add up there.
yeah, there's just the weapons. He just doesn't really have enough reliable weapons. I mean, Kelce, we know what he's gonna do, but as far as his receivers, I mean, Juju's been a big dud the past month or so. He's contributed hardly anything. Kadarius Toney, I mean, he's okay when he's on the field, but he's hardly ever on the field. He's always banged up. MVS is a total yo-yo. I mean, Hardman's out. And then, I mean, Sky Moore, the rookie's intriguing, but he's not consistent. Justin Watson's just good, usually for a couple catches. And outside of that, I mean, the backup tight ends, Jerick McKinnon, he's capable of racking up receiving yards, so maybe he could have a big game. But there's just no real reliable options there. So, like, to me, I probably prefer more Eagles overs than Chiefs overs because there's just the Eagles. It's kind of like you know what you're gonna get more with them as opposed to the Chiefs. The Chiefs are just kind of
Yeah.
erratic from as far as their receivers.
And I do understand Herman's point here. We'll put this comment up again. You can't bet against Patrick. I get that. I don't like the idea of betting against Patrick Mahomes either, but sometimes the number's just too high. And we're talking about player props, 294.5. Now this could be a shootout, and I'm not, like I said, I don't know that I'm in best bet territory like you are, because especially if the Chiefs end up having to chase the game, you could see him throw for a bunch of yards in that second half. But that number does seem too high. Certainly not for me to bet the over. Horace Urquhart says the Chiefs have gone 32 straight games without losing by more than 4 points. The other one there, neither one of these teams has trailed in the playoffs for 1 second. They haven't trailed. They've led the entire game. Now they've each only played 2 games, but still, I do actually think that's what has me pointed toward the over in this game, and the total's been steadily going up. And at some point, it's going to get too high for me, but I think it's at 51 right now. I'm still on the over. 52 is kind of a key number. As long as we don't pass that 52, I think I'm on the over. It's like it just feels like these offenses, we have not seen what they can really do because they haven't had to chase the game.
Yeah, exactly. And then with Hurts is kind of banged up, so they weren't going to force him to do too much. And Mahomes on his ankle wasn't going to be forced to do too much. So but this week they're going to have to. I mean, they've had a week to rest, so yeah, it's going to be all guns a blazing here. So I really like it from a prop perspective, fantasy perspective. I think it's going to be a really spicy matchup. So I mean, for us fantasy enthusiasts, I hope we're right and Jim's wrong, because if it's what Jim's thinking, we're going to all be disappointed.
Yeah, we'll give our final score predictions on Bayou Bets, but he teased like a 27-10 Chiefs.
Oh, please!
If the
no,
Eagles only
please.
scored 10 points, like are they fumbling 5 times or something? Like I just don't see that happening. Here's some other prop bets of interest. There's, like I said, there's so many more. This is just a selection of them. You can get C.J. Gardner-Johnson to have an interception. For those of you Saints fans who are fatalists and think C.J. Gardner-Johnson is suddenly an All-Pro,
Kyle.
He's plus 550 to get an interception. One I really like, Haason Reddick minus 170 to get a sack. Guy's had a sack in 10 of the last 12 games, and one of the 2 that he didn't was the season finale against the Giants, where I didn't get an exact snap count, but he did not play much of that game, so he didn't get a sack in that one. But he's gotten a sack in every other 10 of the past games outside of that one, including 2 in each playoff game. Mahomes not as mobile as he normally is. I just minus 170 to me, I'd pay minus 200 for that.
Yeah, there could be value there. I was thinking like minus 150, I'd be on it. Minus 170, probably won't play it at that price, but definitely a good chance he gets a sack. I mean, he's a freaking beast on the edge. And I also really like Chris Jones to get one, minus 110. I mean, sacks can be kind of hit or miss, but I feel like he's the double-digit sack guy for the Chiefs. I'd probably say his is a little bit better value than Reddick, even though Reddick's got more on the season.
I also find it interesting. You look at the total sack number down at the bottom, and that was one of my favorite prop bets last year, the Rams and Bengals. I think it was the same number, and I hit the over 5.5 sacks. In this case, it's juiced a little bit to the under. That surprises me just a little. 6 sacks in one game is quite a few, but you've got teams that like to blitz here, that rush the quarterback. I mean, obviously, 2 great defensive lines, and the Chiefs will send blitzes. I kind of lean over there as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think both offensive lines are pretty solid, but I think the defensive lines might have a slight advantage here. And with both quarterbacks, especially Mahomes being a little limited with his mobility, I would probably lean the over there. I mean, it's good. Like they know what they're doing. It's not like you're going to get an extreme bargain, but it's pretty decent value, because you got to think the Eagles will probably get at least 3, and then the Chiefs though would need, it's over 5.5. The Chiefs would, if the Eagles get 4, the Chiefs would only need 2. So yeah, I don't know. I'd maybe put a little bit on it, but definitely wouldn't make that a best bet.
Mr. Urquhart says, do prop for team total yards. I didn't see that. I did see which team would have more total yards on Caesars, and the Eagles were minus 130, Chiefs plus 105.
Ooh, I like that
Chiefs
on that.
Wouldn't be surprised if they have it. I just didn't see it. I mean, like, there's literally thousands of options. It's worth NOLA.com/Caesars. Check it out. You could sit there all day and look at the different prop bets they have. We just kind of picked out a selection of them. Also, some novelty props out there, or some exotic props, Spencer. We don't have the slide for that, but you wrote some of them up on the coin toss, of course. We'll have to get Jim Derry to talk about the physics of the heads being a little heavier than the Get out of here.
If you bet really arguing about the coin toss right now.
If you bet on the coin toss, you're just doing it for fun. It is not a winning proposition. Even at minus 101, you're going to lose 2% of your money long term. It's literally a 50-50 proposition. If you're not getting plus 100, you're losing money in
Yeah,
the long term. Your expected value is negative. But fine. If you want to have fun, bet on the coin toss. But they also had first song Rihanna performs at halftime. You can find
yep,
length of the national anthem, the
yeah.
Gatorade color for the
Like the over there.
celebratory bath. Yeah.
Chris Stapleton, he likes to go and have these like long jams, So I think the over is a pretty good bet there. But they set it pretty high though, because the odds makers aren't stupid. They know a lot of Stapleton songs are kind of long, so
He
it's pretty much
cruise.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's set pretty high there. But I would think the over hits. But again, just do those for fun. Don't go put a crazy amount of money on any of those.
Yeah, those ones are crazy, but they do. I mean, they are part of what makes this game different and why everyone will sit there and watch the Super Bowl. And you're going to watch the pregame and you're going to watch the halftime show, and all of that stuff. So, all very cool. Um, let's see what else we got. Let's get into some picks here as you're watching the Fantasy Roundup on bet.nola.com and the Bayou Bets YouTube channel. Do us a favor, subscribe to the Bayou Bets YouTube channel. Get alerts every time we go live, and smash that like button for us. Give us the likes, give us the subscribes and the shares anytime you like the content that you see. Here are some picks. Spencer, we split this up by team as well. So I guess we'll each go team by team. What are your favorite prop bets on Eagles players?
Yeah, I actually like Jalen Hurts to go over on passing yards. I think he's gonna have to throw more than he's had to the past few weeks. They've had these big leads. Definitely don't see him getting some big lead on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. If anything, they might be the ones chasing points because this Eagles defense hadn't really gotten tested much down the stretch. I mean, you got to face Daniel Jones Giants and then the 49ers who just literally had a quarterback with a blown out elbow in the second half. So it's like, yeah, I think Hurts is going to have to throw. He's capable of it too. I went back through his game log. He's had games with over 300 passing yards. So to me, the over on him is a much better value than trying to play the over on Mahomes, even though Mahomes will probably throw for more yards than Hurts. But Hurts here, just if we're talking
Yeah, and
props over better value.
it looks like you got a good value on that as well because it's up to 241.5 now. So you get it at a better number there.
Gotcha. Yeah, the sharp money, man. That sharp money comes in, and then they want to make some changes there. I also really like Miles Sanders under on rushing yards because the Chiefs' defense is better against the run than the pass. So I'm thinking the Eagles, even early, even if they aren't trailing, I think their game plan is gonna be a little more pass heavy than usual. So I think Sanders ends up under, considering that, and also the fact that Boston Scott and Kenneth Gainwell have been more involved down the stretch. And going back to the receiving point that I think they're going to have to throw more. AJ Brown, really like AJ Brown here. I talked to Devin yesterday. He brought up a good point about Devontae Smith not necessarily being the game breaker, big play guy like AJ Brown. So I did kind of looked at it, and the Chiefs don't really have a true number one shutdown corner. L'Jarius Sneed should play, but he's not like a Sauce Gardner, Patrick Surtain, Marshawn Lattimore type. So I'm thinking
Darius
AJ
Slay.
Brown.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, then Brown, their teammates, you don't have to worry about Darius Slay against him. They're together. So like Brown I think, is going to go off, and I like his value there to have the most receiving yards in the game. Even if the Eagles don't win the game, I think he'll crack the 100-yard mark and end up with the most. Kelsey's the favorite for that, but I think with Kelsey, they're gonna double team him because the Chiefs just don't really have many reliable receiving options. But with Brown, it's like, I mean, Smith's a respectable threat too, so I don't think they're gonna be able to put all their attention on Brown.
All right, my Eagles prop bets. I mentioned this one, Haason Reddick to get a sack. Yeah, I know it's a lot of juice. I'm going to pay it just because I almost think there's no way a quarterback who's not going to run a lot. Um, he's a sitting duck in there. The guy gets a sack almost every game. I mean, this number should objectively be lower than minus 200, and it's or higher. I guess higher than minus 200, depending on how you look at it. But to me, minus 170 is some value there. Kenneth Gainwell to score a touchdown. This has actually been bet down. I got it at plus 280 earlier in the week. Um, I, I mean, look, his usage in the playoffs has gone way up, and I like his over 34.5 total yards too. He's had close to 100, averaging close to 100 yards through their two playoff games. Part of that's because they've had big leads, and they're more willing to go to him, I guess. But I just to me, he's getting the touches. 34.5 yards and a touchdown does not seem out of the realm of possibility at all for Kenneth Gainwell. And then this is a little bit of a cheapie, but Jake Elliott extra points over 2.5. Like I said, this is going to be a high scoring game. The Eagles are the third best team in the NFL in touchdown percentage once they get in the red zone. You mentioned how they can get in the end zone if they get that goal to go situation. They use Jalen Hurts behind that wedge of an offensive line, kind of bully their way in. And then Elliott's 51 out of 53 on extra points this year. So he's not likely to pull a Brett Maher, although Brett Maher had only missed one extra point all year too when he missed four. So, look, it's gambling. You never know. But I think 2.5, to me, the Eagles are going to score at least 3 touchdowns. Obviously, getting a situation where they go for 2 or something could be difficult, but I do like his over 2.5 there. All right, Spencer, switching over now to the Chiefs. Who have you got player prop wise on the Chiefs side?
All righty, I got 2 Mahomes unders for y'all. Under on passing yards. I basically gave that one away earlier, but I also really like the under on his rushing yards because, like we've been talking about, his mobility is going to be limited coming off that ankle. So the ankle should be a little better than it was in the AFC title game, but I still don't expect him to run but only 2 or 3 times, and don't see him busting any big runs. So to me, there's a lot of value there with that under. I know when he's healthy, he normally would go over 20 yards, but considering the circumstances, to me, there's value there. But the one I do think is going to run for a good amount is Isaiah Pacheco. The Eagles defense, kind of the opposite of the Chiefs. They're more vulnerable against the run than the pass. Eagles have the number 1 pass defense. Like, their pass defense is really nice, but their run defense can be ran on, and Pacheco's the guy that the Chiefs lean on early downs. I know Clyde Edwards-Helaire is returning, but I doubt he'll have a big role considering he hadn't played in like 2 months. And then Kelsey and Juju, really like Kelsey's over, being that he's the clear focal point. I don't care if he's triple team. He's going over. He's just that freaking good. And then Juju, he's just been a ghost the past month or so. And then he's coming off of knee injury. I don't see him playing much of a role.
Yeah, we talk about tight ends as safety blankets for quarterbacks. I mean, and never is that more true than Travis Kelsey. And I know it doesn't seem like Patrick Mahomes should need a safety blanket, but everybody does sometimes. And if he's under pressure and he's not able to run, as you were saying, well, what's he going to do? He's going to try to dump it off to Kelsey for 6, 8 yards, 10 yards. And then every now and then Kelsey will break a tackle and that 10 yards will turn into 20 yards. And, we could have, we could have an over there even as Mahomes goes under. Question here, AJ Brown plus 450, but what are the odds for Kelsey? I believe he's 3-1.
I think plus 300. Yeah, so to me, Brown was a little better value, but Kelsey could do it.
Could you bet both of those? And I mean, there's not a very good chance it's anybody else, right? If you bet both of those, you're winning money if it's either one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Devonta Smith, maybe he breaks a tackle and it turns into a 70-yard touchdown and he ends up with more yards. Definitely possible, but I don't mind betting both there, and then whichever team ends up throwing more, maybe it's that guy who wins it. My Chiefs prop bets, I went with Mahomes under, that should say rushing, under 19.5 rushing as well. I just think, look, between the pressure, between his ankle, which is going to be better than it was 2 weeks ago, but it's still not going to be fully healed. High ankle sprains don't heal that fast. And between the Eagles' pursuit, I just don't think he's going to rush that much. Maybe he does a couple of times. If it's I'll tell you what I like a lot better. If you go back and look and you want to bet on Mahomes to rush, look at the bottom of this screen. He's plus 320 to score a touchdown. I could certainly see a situation where he's rolling out inside the 5 and scores a touchdown. I just don't think there's going to be very many attempts. And when they do get attempts, he's going to be more likely to duck out of bounds or slide after just 2 or 3 yards than he is trying. 19.5 is a pretty high total to get to. So I kind of think he goes under that. And then instead of going under his total yardage passing wise, I went under his longest pass of 37.5. And this one's interesting because the Chiefs just haven't been throwing downfield, Spencer. I mean, they throw a lot underneath to Kelsey. Again, could Kelsey break a tackle and bust? Yeah, but 38 yards. Mecole Hardman is kind of their deep threat. He's out. So who are they throwing deep to?
He still got MVS. He's incapable of getting a deep ball. Yeah, and Sky Moore, the rookie.
They did throw a pass over 36.5 yards. Quite a few times, more than half the time during the regular season. But I'm trying to think. Counting their playoff games out of 19 games, it was only like 10 or 11 times. So it wasn't, it's not like they always did it. And then, like you said, the Eagles' pass defense and their pass rush, right? They're just not going to
Yeah.
let guys get downfield. So 36.5 seems like a very high bar to me, or 37.5, excuse me. I'm going to go under
Hmm.
that. I did go over on Kadarius Toney, 23.5. I just think at some point they're going to try to get him involved again. Pass rush. You got to get the ball out. He's a guy going to get it around the line of scrimmage, see what he can do. And I went with Kelsey touchdown. Travis Kelsey scores a touchdown in every big game. When was the last time he didn't? And I'll take
Yeah, that's
minus
what it
113.
seems
Okay,
like.
yeah, I'll take my minus 113. That might be a little bit of a square play, but it just seems impossible that the guy doesn't get in the end zone.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he will. It's just like, yeah, it's just hitting my. That's why like him and Jalen Hurts are the two like most likely. But I've thought Jalen Hurts was a little bit better value since he was plus odds. But yeah, no denying Kelsey's just. I mean, it's unbelievable when you think about it. Just how elite he is. He's in his like 33 now. It's a lot of tight ends have pretty much washed up at that moment. He's still like in the prime of his career. It's incredible.
Yeah, he's unbelievable, and it's funny I say that he scored 3 touchdowns in the 2 playoff games. He did not score a touchdown in their last 6 regular season games. Now that I'm looking at it, so even though the guy finished with 12 touchdowns in the 17 regular season games, he did go on a little bit of a drought. So, but in a big game, boy, it just seems like they're going to look for him a lot. So I'll take that. There is a fun one too. I think it's Travis Kelsey total yards minus 6.5 versus Jason Kelsey total snaps um, available at Caesars. So that one's kind of complicated. You got to figure, all right, based on tempo, the Eagles are probably going to run about 70 snaps. So maybe minus 6.5. You could, I don't know.
Wait, what was it
Those
again?
ones are
Like Travis Kelsey's yards
it's
versus Jason Kelsey's number of snaps?
correct, but it's here it is. But it's Kelsey minus 6.5. Kelsey receiving yards minus 6.5, or Jason Kelsey snaps plus 6.5. And if you go
Hmm.
Jason Kelsey, you're actually getting plus 110 on that. So
Okay.
there's a lot of variables in some of they're very fun. I feel the same way about the cross sport parlays, right? Where Caesars has all sorts of these, the other sports books do too, but they can be real fun. Let me find an example for you. Um, Here we go. Cross sport props. Which will be more, Joel Embiid points plus rebounds plus 1.5, or Dallas Goedert receiving yards? And you're like, okay, that's minus 1.5. That's a lot of fun, but I've got to do a lot of thinking here. Like, okay, they're talking about the 76ers game on Saturday. Who do they play? What do I think Joel Embiid's going to get? What's his line? Now, how do I feel Dallas Goedert's going to do? Like, there's so many variables in these things that, as fun as they are, I think you better keep them as fun and not necessarily money makers.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like it's like the sharps. I don't know who really plays that. 'Cause it's like it's probably a little too much. I guess more the public, like I guess the Philly sports fan would be drawn to that, but it's like it's like the typical public would probably rather just do exotic props, and then the sharps are like, well, no, we're just gonna play the line. So like, but yeah, no,
Yeah.
there's stuff out there for everybody. So that's what we love about the Super Bowl. All kind of options. We love options, and we got them for Sunday.
Yeah. Jalen Brown points or Eagles points. Um, so like, again, you got to sit there and, okay, who are the Celtics playing? What if Jalen Brown gets traded on Thursday? My guess is your bet would be void then.
No way.
Uh, but
Celtics aren't
well,
breaking up that core.
that's the rumor is JB for KD, but I
Oh,
don't think it's going to
come
happen either.
on.
But
That would be. I'd
you
be. I
know,
mean, if I'm not a Celtics fan, but I'd be pissed. Like, I mean, you got such a good core right now. Do not break that up.
oh,
Do
you're
not.
you're NBA title favorites right now. You don't
I'm
need to do anything.
saying, if it ain't broke,
But
don't fix it. I could maybe see the Bucks because it's like the Bucks outside of Giannis don't really have like that like other star, but it's like Tatum and Brown. That's a great duo. You cannot break that up.
as that as an aside, that's my point. There's just too many variables in these cross-sport props. Go
Yeah, I'm
have
not
fun with
gonna
them. Look
mess
at
with
them.
them. If you
If you
want to
see
mess
one
with
you
them, cool.
like,
I'm not.
it's worth having fun. I mean, that's what this is all about, right? But just don't. I wouldn't bet a lot of money on. They're not. They're just not. Um, they're for entertainment purposes only. Truly. Um, Speaking of that, DFS, very difficult to do, but there's like a $15 DraftKings contest on Sunday for like $30 million in prizes. And this is very difficult because you only got one game to choose from. So you can't go, like we do during the regular season and go, well, this game's got the highest total. I'm gonna pursue a stack from this game. This is what you got. This is the game you got. The one difference is, Spencer, this is a showdown, meaning just one game. And so you get to pick a player who is your team captain. And your team captain, you have to pay 50% more for him, but you also get 50% more for every point. So for every point he scores, you get a point and a half, right? So you want to choose your star player, and you got to pay up for him, but you're also going to get all those bonus points. So this is what you came up with as a sample DFS lineup for this weekend.
For sure, yeah. Going with A.J. Brown, I mentioned him as a value to have the most receiving yards. If he has the most receiving yards, it means he'll have a pretty big game. So I thought about Jalen Hurts, but it was like if I'd have put Jalen Hurts at captain, it would have made it to where I wouldn't have
It's almost
had quite a
17,000, yeah.
exactly. So to me, A.J. Brown was the better captain value, and still got Jalen Hurts in the lineup though, because I feel like between his rushing and passing, he's going to have a big fantasy day. And then Travis Kelce, felt like I had to get him in there. I had to get at least 3 elite players. So I got Brown, Hurts, and Kelce, and then kind of went bargain hunting there. Isaiah Pacheco, more like a mid-range value. Feel like he's going to get a decent amount of yards, find the end zone with the Eagles' run defense being a little soft, and then got a couple of deep dives there that I feel could pop off. Sky Moore, the rookie, I mentioned him earlier, thinking with the Chiefs receiving core kind of banged up that he could be in line for a pretty good day. Won't be peppered with targets, but it's somebody that if he can bust a big one, a big 50-yard bomb or something, and that could be a DFS winner. You just need to find these little edges here and there, especially with these value plays. And then same with Boston Scott, more so with him. Try to hope he finds the end zone. He probably won't break any big runs per se, but he's a guy they've been using near the goal line. He scored a touchdown last week against a tough 49ers defense. So to me, at 3,800, there's value.
Yeah, and I will say this: the lucky guy or gal who hits that 30 the top prize in that $30 million contest. The top prize is not 30 million; that's the total purse, but it's several $1,000,000. Um, the person who hits that is the person who's going to nail those bottom. Like number one, yeah, you got to nail the captain. Like it has to be the guy who completely pops off and is the player of the game. But number two, you got to nail if Sky Moore is going to have the surprise big game, or it's going to be Dallas Goedert, or it's going to be just some random guy like Boston Scott. You have to nail that. If you really want to pop on these things, you basically have to go 6 for 6, and that includes getting the guy under 5,000 who's going to get it done.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe Kenneth Gainwell. I wanted to get Kenneth Gainwell in there, but didn't have enough money left. So if you wanted to maybe like take Kelce out, and then you could put in like a Kenneth Gainwell and a Goddard, have a few more mid-range guys. But to me, I felt like the move was to have 3 elite players and then have like one mid-range guy and a couple dart throws. And I mean, MVS is a guy that's capable of going off, but to me, he's just too volatile to risk. I feel like there was more value with Sky Moore.
If Quez Watkins scores on a 70-yard bomb and you don't have him in your lineup, you're done for the million. You're done. Okay, like
yeah, there's gonna be somebody that's gonna have him.
you
got
people
do like 100 lineups.
Right. Crazy. Somebody will be with him and they'll have hit everything else, and that'll be that. So you have to kind of be willing to take those chances. So I didn't even make one, Spencer, because I really like yours. I agree with you. A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts is a stack to go with. Travis Kelce. I love Gainwell. I'd like to see him in there somewhere, but again, you got to fit what your budget can fit. So that's a sample DFS lineup for you. And then finally, we're going to leave you with our same game parlay picks. And I'll go first here, Spencer. And I just mentioned that Kenneth Gainwell is a guy I like. Caesar's a little bit limited, and most sports books are. You can't same game parlay everything. Like I couldn't get Haason Reddick in here, for instance, and I like that for him to get a sack. And so I went with some things that I could get. And I talked about Elliott over 2.5 PATs. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I also think the Chiefs are more likely to settle for field goals. And so I know it seems lame to include kickers, but I do think there's some value there. Harrison Butker, I think the Chiefs could be the difference in the game. Maybe have to settle for a couple of field goals over 7.5 points. Give me some of that. Gainwell over 19.5 rushing. The guy's had like 15 carries a game in the playoffs. He's not going to get over 19.5 rushing. And then Jalen Hurts, again, with a same game parlay, you want to pick a script, right? How you think the game is going to go, and then pick things that are going to feed into that. And Jalen Hurts, if the Eagles get a lead, one thing about him is he takes very, very few chances. Um, he doesn't throw to guys who aren't wide open. He doesn't push the ball down the field. He doesn't fumble often. So basically to not throw an interception, under 0.5 interceptions, is something that if the Eagles do have a good day, I kind of like the way this looks. You're getting Gainwell involved. It looks like their first two playoff games is what it looks like. It's higher scoring. You're getting Gainwell involved. They're keeping the opposition to field goals, and Hurts is taking care of the ball. Pays plus 900.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, see, if someone likes the Eagles, and I could see playing this, I'm not as high on the Eagles, so I think there's a chance Hurts throws a pick because I think he's going to have to throw a lot more than he has had to the past 2 weeks. And then with the kickers, like I kind of in a way would rather swap those. I think with the Chiefs defense, they're a bend but don't break kind of defense. So I'm thinking the Eagles are. I know they're great in the red zone, but I think they're going to have to kick a little more than usual. And then I think the Chiefs can, with Mahomes, they're going to find ways to find the end zone. That's kind of my early leak in what I'm not going to say my final score pick yet, but that's kind of the way I see the game
All
script
right.
going. But
And I mean, look, the stinking thing is plus 900. It is not likely to hit. It is not better than
right.
50%. But if you see the game going a certain way and you're right about it, that's how you can really get paid off. Horace, yeah,
100%.
I really like that. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Can't
also,
argue
if
with
you
that.
include his receiving, I think it's 34 and a half, and they throw to him a lot too. So I just think both of those are really good for Gainwell. All right, Spencer, hit us with your. Oh, and by the way, my other point on that: the Eagles number 3 in the NFL in converting red zone possessions to touchdowns this year, so much
Mm-hmm.
higher than the Chiefs. We'll see what happens, but that was the thought process there. All right,
For
Spencer,
sure. For sure.
your same game Super Bowl parlay.
All righty, yeah, going AJ Brown, man. If AJ Brown better pop off, I've had him basically all my picks here. I'm going all in with AJB, somebody I really liked in fantasy and had a nice year. And I think he's good. Yeah, he's been kind of quiet though in the playoffs because the Eagles haven't had to throw much. He's been real quiet these past couple weeks. I think he's been saving his big game for the biggest stage, and I think he's gonna deliver on Sunday. And then Jalen Hurts to score a touchdown. I feel like he's gonna find a way, man. Jalen Hurts, he's just like it's like a magnet, man. Him in the end zone, it's just like it just always seems to happen. I think even if the Eagles don't do quite as well on offense, kind of like I'm thinking, I think they might hit some walls, but I still think Jalen Hurts can find a way to get a touchdown. And then Mahomes under on passing yards, almost put his rushing in there. But I guess I feel like there's a chance that you never know. He might have to scramble and make a run. So, but I feel good about both. But the passing, I feel real good about just because his receivers, man, it's just his receivers are down bad. I got Kelsey, but not much else. And then Juju under, just coming off the knee injury. He's been a ghost past month or two. He stinks. I mean, Juju stinks. He's not explosive. MVS could maybe pop off. Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, even I don't really like him either, but I admit he's a pretty explosive playmaker. Juju though, I just have not seen the juice from Juju that we saw when he was with Pittsburgh. I feel like the under, even though it's low, I feel like it's pretty good value.
Yeah, I think this whole thing, honestly, like I don't. Again, are these better than 50 to 50 hit? No, they're not. I mean, you're combining so many different things, but plus 1200, tremendous value on that bet. I feel like. I mean, I think if you played the Super Bowl out hypothetically 12 times, this thing would hit more than once, and that's really what you got to look for.
For sure. Yeah, just trying to find value with it. And yeah, that's what you got to do. Obviously at 12 to 1 is can't bank on it hitting, but you got to just find something that if you feel like you're getting a good price on it, you got to just take your chances and hope that it's one of those, if you play it out, hopefully it's one of the scenarios where all those things happen. You can win some extra cash.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And by the way, if you add in to my same game parlay, I was just playing around with this. These four things plus the over 51 for the game, which really plays into everything I'm putting here, right? Hurts doesn't turn the ball over, Gainwell over, the kickers both over. It goes up to plus 1300. So again, if you see the game going a certain way, you can really get paid off by combining some of these things. Knowing me, everything would be correct, and the Eagles would have to go for 2 on one of these touchdowns, and like I wouldn't get the extra point proper. He'd doink an extra point or something, and then they'd go for 2 to make up for it. And so even though like I could just see it happening, but that's how it goes with parlays. Is sometimes you for the big payoff you have to make sure everything goes just exactly right. So that's going to do it for the fantasy roundup this week, and really for the football season. So those of you who have stuck with us all season long, we appreciate you. We'll probably take a few weeks off and be back, talk some fantasy basketball, and then get into fantasy baseball draft, Spencer.
Yeah, it's not that far away. Fantasy baseball, shoot, next month they'll be drafting for that. And then, yeah, basketball's hot and heavy. And have golf, Uncle Big Nick and company going to do DFS golf, DFS NASCAR.
Heck
We
yeah.
got NASCAR starting week after the Super Bowl. So, yeah, we'll still have a lot to talk about.
Absolutely. And the rest of this week, still plenty of Super Bowl talk. These same channels, Bayou Bets YouTube channel, check out Bayou Bets live at 4 p.m. on Thursday. My final pick, Spencer's final pick, along with Jim Derry, Zoe Collins, Rath, Gabe Anderson. The whole crew is going to be there giving our final picks and our best bets for the Super Bowl. And then on Friday morning, Jim will be live with Jeff Duncan on Datitude as well at 9:15. And so they will discuss the Super Bowl and where they see the Saints offseason going from here, because it's going to be the last time they talk for a little while. The quarterback obviously has to be decided, a lot of other free agency stuff before the draft. So tune in to that also here on the Bayou Bets YouTube channel. So with that said, for our producer Zoe Collins Rath, for Spencer the Guru Urquhart, I'm Zach Ewing, and once again, thank you so much all year for watching the Fantasy Roundup. See you next time, everybody.